All right. Welcome to Creatively Speaking, episode 5, with your host, Lawrence Mayfield. Today I have a very anticipated guest. For a couple months now, I asked you, and I knew about you on the scene here locally, and I was like, got to get him on, and it's finally happening. So without further ado, I'm going to let you tell the show what your name is and what concept you're pursuing or sharing.
Yeah, I am Mark Walsh. I am a photographer here in town. You might know me. My social media handles, Mark took that. I've probably photographed one of your favorite bands here.
What kind of photography do you do, and how do you describe that?
So I am I do live music, and I do sort of a candid, maybe lifestyle and bar photography, I guess. Most of my work is pretty candid. If you're familiar with me on social media, the sort of daily posts are very candid, very genuine posts and photographs.
When did you decide, was there a specific moment when you were taking photos way back when that you decided, okay, now I want to get invested in this, get it legitimate equipment? Was there a moment, or was it just kind of just happened? How long have you been doing it, I guess?
It happened somewhat organically for me. So I started out, the first time I ever picked up a camera, I was writing for my high school newspaper, and one of my best friends was the visual editor of the paper, and we were pretty short-staffed. It was pretty much anybody who signed up to take that class, and it was a small class. There were 10 of us or something, and he asked me if I would go and take some pictures, go and take a couple of portraits of for an article. I don't remember which article it was, but and I had fun with that. I enjoyed it, and so I really think that year I can't remember how I ended up getting it, but it was birthday, Christmas, something like that. I'd asked for a pretty specific piece of kit, and I got it. And ended up shooting on a little Sony for a few years, and then went on to do a little more photojournalism in college, the little bit of college that I went to, and then I always kept it around, but I needed to make some money, so I stayed in. I dropped out of college and went and did a career for a long while, kept my camera around, and would do little odd jobs. And I had photographed a wedding, and I was just not very happy with what I did, with the results of it, and put down my camera for 2 years and did not take a picture.
I mean, it must have been a learning moment right there. There was a lot of lessons learned in that first initial sort of commission job, I guess.
Yeah, it wasn't my first time doing it for money, but I just didn't enjoy it, and I was really displeased with the results, and so I took a step back and quit, and it wasn't until about 2 years after that initial time I went and I went on vacation, and I was upset with where my career was going at the time, and I was just quite honestly I was in a really difficult career that demanded a lot mentally and physically, and I couldn't really, I wasn't getting where I wanted to be. I'd been tapped for a couple of big high-paying jobs, and I thought that the money was the answer to that problem, but it really wasn't. But I went on vacation with some friends, and it sort of helped me recenter. And I took my camera with me for that, and photographed what was going on around me, and I think that trip sort of it really helped to form what would become the Mark Took That thing, and then eventually that gained enough popularity, and that I was busy all the time, and it helped me make my transition from doing that job all the time to making photography my full-time gig.
I mean, I think it's interesting because you said like 2 years you took a break. But your friends got you back out of that, and you got back in it, and you were like, I'm going to fully commit to this.
So the time between that 2-year break and when I was able to make it a full-time gig, it took about 2 years, and that's 2 years of the pretty strenuous schedule that I keep with the Mark Took That sort of thing. I publish every day. Yeah, it can be a lot, and so especially when my career was a 70-hour-a-week job, and so I still managed to publish every day. I missed maybe in that period maybe 20 days. Yeah, it definitely kept me on track. It's a routine.
I love that. Yeah, I like that you just, despite the limited time that you had, with your day job, you were like so passionate that you were like, I'm still going to make time for the thing that I really love. And that means a lot to me too, because I talked to Josh back about that, and how there is you get pressure on yourself because if you're a musician, you don't always have time to like record and do all the things. You got to do all the legwork, but you do it because you the love of the game, as it were. I wanted to kind of talk about you kind of do like bar photography, or you're coining it differently, but like it's kind of like reminiscent of street photography. It has like this black and white gray filter. Is that a stylistic aesthetic choice, or is that just kind of like, because you tend to have that, I've seen on your photography, or how does that play into it?
So it was an aesthetic choice. There's a pretty distinct methodology to how I create a Mark Took That post. And I manifested that in a series of rules that I made for myself. One of them was that I kept that sort of monochromatic black and white motif going. I kept that rule for a very long time. It was about a year and a half that I kept that rule. There are a number of reasons, both practical and stylistic. First of all, it's easier for me to edit. When the way that I treat it, and the way that I have to, I won't publish if I don't publish it that night. It isn't like just mentally it just doesn't work. And so I have to essentially get back from whatever I'm doing, edit, and post that night. And it doesn't sound like that much work, but it is. It's about, I'd say I spend about an hour and a half a night, something like that, editing and posting. I am such a perfectionist and such a so detail oriented that color was a sort of a non-starter for that, because I can, especially in a color image, I can get lost in it. I can edit a color image. I would find myself editing far too long. The other reason is purely stylistic. A lot of my artistic inspiration comes from sort of New Deal era photography. There was basically coming up to the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl and such. The government paid artists to go out and make great works, and which is something that is I think one of the best things that FDR had any hand in doing. It truly it created some of the greatest things that we have done as a society. The New Deal is one of the best pieces of legislation ever written, or some of the best pieces of legislation ever written. So one of I get a lot of inspiration from Dorothea Lange, who was a photographer that went out is well known for going out into the Southwest and photographing migrant workers and photographing real life. What actually was happening, how people were getting food on the table. And she had a very it's come out that a lot of her photos were staged since her passing, but her style was very very real, very candid, very in the moment, and you saw what real humanity looked like. And in any of my photos, pretty much any of my photos that you see, I strive to do the same thing. I think a lot of the people that I photograph and the people that I surround myself with are people that sort of ordinary people don't think about and don't view as people. Because a lot of them are servers, bartenders. They are doing something in a service of somebody else. And
right.
So a lot of times, they don't view, a normal person walking into a bar, the consumer, the whatever, doesn't see the bartender as a person. And so adding that sort of something to make the image just a touch more striking, sort of removes that impersonality, I guess, or that, dehumanization,
right,
from it.
I love that that's packed in to your thought process as a photographer. The humanization aspect. That's I'm not even thinking on that level. I just photographs, and I guess to somebody like me is just it's an intrigue. It's oh, that's a cool shot, but you're packing a lot of emotion into it, which is I really do like that.
Yeah, it's much more intentional than it comes off as. It's interesting, like speaking with people that consume my art differently. You get all of the different levels of consumption of that art are phenomenal, and I love it, and I love talking to people that enjoy it, and perceive it, right? And it's interesting. There are people, and perfect strangers even. I mean, I get stopped in bars and things all the time, and spoken with about it. It really is cool seeing how much thought other people do put into it, and how much they analyze it. I think it's neat.
I want to kind of stay on like the sort of I guess what goes into the photos itself, like the manipulation and filters, like back to that a little bit. I do want to return to like a lot of those things that were said, like how you're looking for a photo and everything, but jumping back to the filters and white and gray, you said there's obvious reasons why you have like a motif. You said like you stuck to this thing, but what is your thoughts on like, I guess, other the usage of filters and like manipulation of photos? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, so there's a couple of I've got a couple of points to make here. The first one is oftentimes I'm not using a filter. I carry 2 cameras at any given time, and one of them only shoots black and white. It has no it doesn't have color layers to the sensor, which is neat, and I love using that. I use some really kind of unique kit so a lot of times it isn't even a choice to photograph in sort of a monochromatic black and white. I have had a few shots where I've had a client ask me if I can deliver it in color, and the answer is no. Generally, if I've delivered it black and white, well, legitimately, it's an impossibility. Like I can't. Right. I would have to manually colorize it. Like I would have to remember what colors these people were wearing, and I quite honestly, I would have to send it off to a lab and have a professional colorizer do that.
So is it safe to say Mark sees the world in black and gray?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, that black and white sort of. It also serves. It simplifies it a lot for me because it narrows it down from thinking about how color works to thinking about how light works. And so I am a lot of times able to get an image that I like better because it is simpler. If I have a very simple composition, it can help it, or one that I intend to be very simple. The other part that of what you were mentioning before, the sort of popular use of filters is something that I am very on the fence about. The thing that I strive to do is to take a very organic and a very real image. That's what I strive to do. A lot of I do go back and I will retouch some images. So if somebody has an obvious blemish or something that they're sensitive, self-conscious about, I will use a tool that's in my editing software to attempt to eliminate that. The flip side of that is there are a lot of people who have sensitivities. I think we all do have sensitivities when it comes to stuff like that. I certainly do. But that will use that'll use filters, and that will use tools sort of as a crutch to present a more, quote, more perfect version of themselves to the world. And I personally don't like that. We are imperfect, and we have imperfections. And I think that we definitely need to share those with others. It just makes us more honest. So yeah, I think that there is a gross oversaturation of these sort of weird filters. That being said, like, I love having fun, and I send, just silly, stuff to people all the time, and I love it. My brother, for one, is he's huge onto Snapchat, and he sends me some of the funniest stuff I've ever seen with all the filters and stuff that you can use on there. I really, really enjoy that.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I do like about what you said is that like the sort of the criticisms of the filters and manipulation is that there's like a sort of inauthentic part of it, right? But then there's also like you said, everybody has. I love that you made that clear, is that everybody has insecurities, Yeah. And photography is, with you, it feels like you're just trying to, humanize, like you said, you're humanizing people, and that's like next level art, to me. And I do appreciate that you're articulating that. That's I don't know, I'm lost for words. I really like that, Mark. Another thing is that I feel like there's a comparative with how you said you had different kits, because there's like one camera has this set up, and then the other, like, you're kind of like a guitarist, Mark. Yeah. Because we have like tunings and shit, and you got cameras with different. You guys are like literally musicians, honestly, in my mind.
Gear wise, it's very similar. Like, I use kind of intentionally. I very much so subscribe to the idea that there's a jack of all trades is a master of none, right? And so my photographic tools, my cameras, flashes, lenses, whatever, are all pretty specialized, and they all do different jobs. At any given event, or anything, generally when I'm out and about, I'll have one camera that I'm using during the day. Sure. And that goes with me wherever I am. If I'm shooting an event, I have a harness system that I use, and I generally will have, depending on the event, but if it's an event that or like a show or what have you, where I have diverse lighting conditions and diverse subject matter that I need to capture, I will generally have two cameras, one on each side of the harness. I will generally have one or two more lenses in pockets, and I will have one or two flashes on me as well. Again, depending on, I try to tailor the kit that I bring to the event that I'm shooting. That's generally what my kit looks like. I carry very, very unique gear. It's expensive, and it's kind of bougie and over the top, but I kind of figure that I've been very methodical with the gear that I've bought, and because a lot of photographers get a little too into the gear, meaning like, and I've fallen into this trap before where you have, 2 or 3 bodies and a backpack full of lenses and a Pelican case full of whatever else and all this junk. And generally that junk it sort of weighs you down and slows you down. And the skill in photography is seeing what's going on and being able to position yourself where you can capture it. Seeing the shot and positioning yourself correctly. And so if you're weighed down by by kit, you can't get there as fast. Or if you're like, I use so I shoot on Leica cameras. There's a lot of reasons for that, but the main one and the most practical one is that they are built very robust. My SL, I have a Leica SL2S. That camera, its body is made of milled aluminum, and its lenses the barrels are aluminum. The mounts are solid as can be. I know that camera is going to work every time I turn it on. My other digital body is a Leica M10 monochrome. And that camera is made out of milled brass. I know it's going to work every time I turn it on. I could use that thing as a hammer and take a phenomenal image with it in 10 minutes. It really is. That one has slid down limestone, has fallen off of 2 different bars, has had, and people ask me, why I'm kind of haphazard with them, and I want to be there. I want them to be there. They've had more cigarettes ashed on them and more beers spilled on them than I can count, and that's fine. They still take the image. Yeah, they still take the image. I know that I can do that. I had Sonys before. They're great cameras. They take a phenomenal image. I don't know if they could do that. I know that if they're going to survive the beating that I put them through every day, they're going to survive me, wrestling through a mosh pit. I'm not worried about damage to gear because I know it's going to take it.
Mm-hmm. So, is it safe to say that you're self-taught? Like you've learned all of this throughout the journey and the years of doing this. Did you ever take a course or anything like that, or didn't any? No?
I've never taken any photography course whatsoever. In a photography classroom, I haven't taken an art class since high school, it's fun sometimes talking to other people in the field, and especially as I'm more recognized as an artist, in town. I have art on display in a few galleries here in town right now.
Like visual?
Yeah. I have stuff right now hanging in galleries, and it's always interesting talking to these people because a lot of times I just think about it so much differently than a lot of other people do. A lot of these people with Not saying that there's anything wrong with it. Some of my favorite people have art degrees, and it's great, and I think it was great for them. I wish that I had been fortunate enough to be able to go to school for an art degree. It just was not accessible to me.
I would say you've done pretty damn well, Mark. I mean, considering where you're at right now, I mean, you've got a decent following, and a lot of people appreciate, the content that you're sharing. So, I mean, I think that's evidence of the opposite of I don't know, traditional academic direction for art is, I don't know. I'm like I said, I kind of agree with it, but I understand there's probably something that could be gained from it. I just don't know.
Yeah, I think that a lot of art education. I think a lot of art education has the same issues that a lot of our education as a whole has currently. And society, currently, it attempts to sort of put you in a box, and or categorize you, or anytime that you grade somebody's art, it just seems very reductive, and so yeah, I don't know, I create art that I want to create and that I enjoy.
Well said. I want to stay on sort of like, I want to go back to just the photography like aspect of like, if you're willing to go back to that topic. There's the thought of like out of focus. You said candid, the word, and like out of focus shots and like catching red glare from people's eyes in a photo. Is that inherently a wrong thing in your mind, or like what's your view on that?
My view is complicated on those things. I think that stylistically things like that can be good. So like I am a huge fan of a very harsh direct flash stylistically. I'm a huge fan of getting people in motion and capturing motion blur. I love seeing a real moment like that. I'm not a huge fan of like the sort of red eye thing. And I mean, it's just too easy to avoid. And a lot of times, I think there's a line for me for out of focus. There's a difference between, wanting a photograph to look sort of gritty and raw and poor technique, and not to say like I think there are images that I have created that I've sold prints of that are not very technically good, but they captured a moment that was very relatable and something that spoke to people. And so technique, while important, is maybe like third on that list, right? Capturing an interesting subject is really high up there. And then, your framing, your composition as a whole needs to be considered. But an image can fall apart due to poor technique easily. So you got to be able to have all of that.
Sure. No, I mean, but like also that's doubly so with the control of the situation, because like you said, like you're kind of at the mercy of a lot of moving pieces, components. People are like doing everything. You're in the moment. So like, what do you have? And you basically you're outlining. You have the technique is your only element of control, right?
Yeah.
So, and what is the technique then? I guess to balance that out when you take the shot.
So, a lot of it comes from experience, and a lot of it's very intuitive once you have that experience, knowing how. Basically, what for me at this point, where I've been shooting in like low light environments for as long as I have, a lot of it is knowing how to balance that sort of triangle of exposure, right? Because so with photography, there are three ways to manipulate how much light is captured, right? And that's all you're doing, is you're just capturing light when you're taking a photograph, right?
Sure.
Understanding that between those three aspects, between ISO, which is the reactivity of the sensor to light, shutter speed, which is how long it takes for the shutter to expose the image, how long the shutter exposes the sensor to light, and aperture, which is how big the hole is to let light in the lens. Understanding how you can balance those three things to create a well-exposed image, or an image that is exposed enough, is something that you just learn by going out there and shooting. And so I have like a rule of thumb that I go out to any sort of environment in, or like a dark environment. I have a rule of thumb. I will generally, unless I'm using flash, I will generally have one of my kits, either of my kits. So say I'm out with the M10 monochrome. I walk out. I will have my shutter speed set to 1/60th of a second, which is pretty slow. I'll have my aperture on my 50mm f2, my 50mm Summicron. I will have it set to 2.8 is generally where I have it set on. That gives me enough depth of field to be able to keep certainly my subject in focus, while still having a sharper image and letting enough light in to properly expose an image. And then I generally let the camera choose the ISO. Lighting conditions and bars change so frequently, and it's so delicate that I generally do also underexpose by one stop. Past that, it's sort of rule of thumb and it's sort of gut telling me what to do. If I'm in a higher light environment, I'll speed up. I'll open up that, or I'll close down that aperture some, and I'll speed up the shutter speed. But a lot of this is just sort of gut instinct, and making sure that I get the shot.
And is it I guess we're kind of talking already about what you're looking for when you're taking a photo. It kind of sounds like it depends on where you're at, right? Like what you're going for. But is there anything like when you're doing your more frequent content that you're sharing, which is like the bar setting with friends and stuff? I mean, is there anything particularly you're looking for there, or how does that go down?
I don't know that it's so much looking for things as it is seeing things. So I do look for just unique moments, things that I haven't really seen before, everybody that I spend time with is so creative and so interesting that generally they will do something, or they will make a weird face, or they'll set something on the bar in an interesting way, or they'll whatever, and I'll generally capture that. Or they'll be conversing, they'll show a lot of emotion in a conversation, or what have you. It'll be I just see things, right? And then capture them as I see them.
And then there was because I know you mentioned earlier about Dorothy Lang, right? I said that right? She was an inspiration for you. Is that like, because I was going to ask, like, is there a photo that you find yourself returning to constantly, like for inspiration, or is there one that you took that you kind of like feel euphoric about, you feel like just you return to often, or?
As a body of work was so interesting and so varied, but I think she's got a few that are kind of regarded as some of the best photographs ever taken. And it is such a she expresses so much. The look on this woman's face, it's called Migrant Mother, is the name of the photograph. But the expression on her face and the way that her children are surrounding her is really pretty interesting. Yeah, it's a classic image.
That's the Great Depression, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was that was done in 1936. But she really she captured so much emotion in that. And I mean, she humanized that person that is a pea picker. And that's what that woman did, was she was a pea picker. And I don't think anybody thinks about where their peas come from when they're eating peas at a restaurant or at home or what have you. And this woman, this migrant worker, was one of the many people that was picking those peas in 1936. Like, that's crazy. And it's a very powerful image. So I mean, that's probably the most boring take that I can give you as a portrait photographer, as a taking candid images. If I was a landscape photographer, that's the equivalent of saying that Ansel Adams was a inspiration. But it's very true. I mean, I've always she was reading about her in a book that I had when I was a kid. Was the first time I was like, wow, I understand this art. I understand this particular art. I come from a family of engineers. Like, we're not, I mean, we're not art people.
Like analytical, but you have a creative spark in you.
Yeah, and I think ultimately all of us kind of do. It's just we come from a really interesting mix of self-made wealthy people and poor, just we're all self-made. We all sort of fight for everything that we do. And
right, it's like our creative spirit, I guess, like manifests in different things, right? Like you're saying, like there's wealthy, it manifested in that way. It's not always that it manifests in the most, I don't know, productive ways, but it is kind of what it is.
I mean, we're all sort of out of the box thinkers, right? But I think that certainly the way that I've done it has been, the field that I came from, my career was one where I had to be quite creative, but not necessarily in a way where I'm making art. I was in automotive sales for a long time, being able to sort of think on your feet is key to that. Being able to sort of assess needs is sort of the same thing that I do now, where I find things and I see things, right? What I was doing was I was seeing somebody's needs and helping find a way for them to buy something, right? So it really, regardless, it's something where I think the common thread there is that all of us have had vision, but and my cousin who makes ceramic art, my cousin and I are the only people that have in our immediate family that have ever really grabbed onto art. It came even later for them, like for my cousin. They are a chemical engineer. I mean, a very, very high-powered chemist, like way past what I can understand.
I mean, you have a improvisational aspect to you, Mark. Like you're, you like for the photography thing, that's kind of how that goes. You have to be in the moment. And but like going back to the Dorothy Lang photo, I guess the simplest photos. Like a side note that I really wanted to share with you is that like, I mean, I'm not on the level where like I have like legitimate equipment, but sometimes I do take a photo like with my phone or something silly, and it'll inspire like just I don't know, like a street with like at nighttime and like there's nothing there, and I just like I don't know, I'll go home and then I'll like look at that and that'll like serve as inspiration. So I like that idea that like a photo, what's the statement people say, it's like a photo speaks 1,000 words or something like that. So I can see that in certain photos.
My current background on my cell phone is one of my friends happens to be the front man, one of the bands that I've most prolifically photographed. But it is him in midair, kicking in the door of another friend's car.
Hell yeah.
It's one that I took one night. We were the whole group of us had kind of a rough night, and we were frustrated, and my buddy said, well, I have to get a new door for my car anyway. You want to just bash it in?
That's so fucking punk, dude.
Yeah, and we so the four of us or so went over, and I did not land a kick on the door, but I love what that image says. I love thinking back to that was, it's not only punk, right? Like it's sick that's how we exercised our frustration, right? But it was also a gesture that the one friend said, I have to do this, but I have to get a new door anyway. Why don't you guys bash this one in? Like, to get your frustration out. Like, here, let me help you take out your frustration in a healthy manner. Let me, it said a lot. That moment meant a lot to me, and these were all people that would have never met if not for me being in their lives, which is sick. I love that. Like, 3 dudes, completely different walks of life, but they're all my friends, and now they're all good friends with each other, and it's great. So I think that meant something to me. Seeing that every time I open up my phone, and it's symbolic of sort of where I'm at right now. Sort of throwing out the rule book and throwing out what's going on, and just sort of making my own way of it, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's lots of symbolism in that image.
Badass photo though. I like because it's like it's like that out of focus. That's
it's in focus, but it's where I was shooting with such a slow shutter speed that he's moving quickly, and so there's a lot of motion blur.
That's going to be on the record, right?
I hope so. He needs to, honestly, he needs to, I need to bring it up to him because I don't know what we're going to do for a physical release of that record. And I've done a lot of work with him and other people in that, that band and a couple others with artistic direction in the past. So I hope that they use that. I think it would be sick. I think it would fit with their vibe a lot.
Oh yeah. Can we? Is it cool if we switch gears on to a different kind of like? This is more about like the sort of direction that your photography's taking. Like you've told me that you've done like weddings in the past and you've done different events, but like, have you considered, because you are in like the Distillery District area a lot of times, I'm sure you kind of like hop around in town, but have you considered like, promoting businesses, and have you done any of that, or like how are you on the front of like what's on the horizon for Mark's photography?
All that is yes. I have worked with businesses, promoting businesses in the past. Tomorrow, actually, I'm working with a business. I tend to do a promotional shoot for a business once or twice a week, in some way or another. Now that manifests itself in a couple different ways. So, I work pretty extensively with artists. The most obvious of those is going to be live music photography and the promo shoots for bands that I do. I do some for restaurants. But they'll all be for like special events. So gotcha. The one that I'm shooting tomorrow is for a pop-up that's a restaurant that no longer exists, but the chef is commandeering a kitchen from another one of my favorite restaurants here in town. Nebutori is going to be coming to Sidebar tomorrow, so I will be there shooting that for for a very good friend of mine, working in another very good friend of mine, or very good friends of mine's bar. So that's sick. I have strong relationships with a number of venues and a number of bars and such here in town that I'm sort of a preferred person to work with for them. But as far as I'm always going to at my particular point where I am right now, I'm gonna prefer to work with an artist or work with a band, work with somebody else over a business, right?
Sure, like
tattoo artists,
friends,
whatever. I do a lot of promotional work for tattoo artists here in town. So for my friends Ethan and Maddie, or Liv Moody, or a number of other people that I enjoy, but they and of course I am for hire.
Very nice. And so do you do you do other types of photography? Like you mentioned like landscaping photography, but you don't do that. But is there like any other type of style that you venture into?
It really is. I really try to keep it to stuff with people in it. I really try to keep it that way. My sort of fine art tends to be a little less people heavy for sure. I just displayed my first on display as part of the Lexington Art League's Prohibition. I currently have the first image that I've ever made where or the first image that I've ever like had for sale that's a or displayed in an art gallery even where the subject is a person. So and it was kind of a weird thing, like she's wearing a motorcycle helmet, so her identity is kind of obscured, but people really is sort of what I intend to capture, and I don't really care to do produce much else that's not around people. I'm just not inspired to do that.
I have seen like lately you have like an object or something like I don't know, electrical line or something. I think there was one photo recently. Like, is that just kind of like because you're feeling
people, it? Yeah, it's people interacting with the world. So I mean, objects like that, they're placed, and so I mean, that is sort of humanity interacting with the environment. It's people interacting with the environment. But yeah, I do a little bit of that, but for the most part, and certainly for like, as far as like what I would do for work, I want something that I can be sort of inspired by, and I'm fortunate to sort of have the luxury to choose what I do, and so that's why I do a lot of stuff like that.
Are people mostly, this is kind of a random question, but are people mostly positive, or do they have any sort of hang-ups with when you take their photo, or is there any of that? Like, how do you kind of negotiate those things?
It's usually pretty much the opposite. The biggest negative complaint that I ever get is, why don't you take pictures of me? I get that question a few times a week, at least. And I have trouble answering that question diplomatically. It's because I can't find a way to say it nicely, and I'm meaning it as nicely as possible. Generally, the answer to that question isn't "I don't like you." It isn't "I don't enjoy spending time with you." It isn't any of that stuff. There's usually one of 3 or 4 answers to that. The first one is, I don't know your social media handle. That could be one of them. That's a common one, right? But that's getting less and less common. The second one is, I don't like you. And that happens, right? But that sort of ties into, but it's very rarely that one too. I really don't have a lot of ill will towards anybody. I think the biggest one, the absolute biggest one, is I just either, number one, you're trying to get on my social media. I find that so annoying. I don't want that. That's not, it is, because it's like, okay, instead of whatever, instead of being my friend and being in the moment and being genuine, you were trying to be around me for clout. And I'm just not a fan of that. That's not genuine. That's not real. Right? I don't want that around me. I don't want that energy around me. The final one is because I don't see you doing interesting things around me. You aren't doing things that catch my eye. My eye is not going that way. And But usually the answer is just, I didn't take a good picture of you tonight. Like, I mean, it's
Fair enough.
like, yeah. And that's usually what I'll answer is, oh yeah, I just haven't taken a picture that I want to share of you.
Right.
And that's generally what I'll say. People don't understand that, but it's because it's a very complex answer. There's a lot of reasons. As far as negative reactions to photographs, there have been a few. So there's that one. Why don't you take pictures of me? I get that one all the time. There's no way to equitably do it, so I just don't even try anymore to be diplomatic with how I post and who I post it. It doesn't matter anymore. I take pictures that I like and post them, and there we go. And generally, if you ask me to take a picture, unless I like it a lot, I will not post it.
Gotcha.
Because it's an immediate turnoff. That takes it down 2 or 3 pegs of like importance to me. If somebody asks me to take a picture, because it's my job. Like then it's like, oh, do free labor for me. I'm not going to do that. The other thing that I get is usually for a new friend. The first time that I post them on my social media, I get, oh, I look so ugly in that. Second time, okay. Third time, you always take ugly pictures of me. Okay? The reason why is because you've never seen yourself not mirrored.
Mm.
Most people have never seen themselves actually photographed how I see you. And so it sets off in your brain this idea of it's like an uncanny valley sort of thing. It's like, that's almost how I perceive myself. I don't like that it's almost how I perceive myself instead of how I perceive myself. First, couple times that I'll photograph somebody, generally they won't like it. And then, unless they're doing something cool, that one rocked. That one was a banger. That one was awesome. Whatever. Can you send me that? Whatever. And so it really, it sort of changes over time. But those are generally the only complaints that I get. I've only ever had to delete 2 or 3 images off of my social media. I, as a rule, don't really do that unless it's something where, somebody's, somebody feels in danger, or, other special circumstances. But as a rule, I don't really, because it's as much as, it's going to sound a little weird, but like, it may be your likeness, but it's my art. And both are valid. And, I'm going to share my art.
So, yeah, I mean, like, that's kind of like, I guess, a question I'm wondering is, like, photogenic. Is there such a thing? Like, do people get in their head about that? Like, is everybody photogenic in the right lighting, or is it only a select few in your mind?
That's a really good question.
This is kind of a random one because I never actually put this on the list. Things I was going to tell you, but I thought of this one leading up to our conversation. I thought it'd be kind of interesting to just throw it in the mix.
I like this one a lot. Yes and no. I didn't think it was real.
Okay.
I think everybody is photogenic, ultimately. I think everybody looks good in photos. I think that there are certain behaviors that people do that make them less photogenic or more photogenic. And then there are some people that are so either still or animated that make them super photogenic or super not photogenic. So I like there's a joke. I have a joke with my friend Ethan, the tattoo artist, and he's one of my best friends. I love him. He's great. He and Maddie are both super photogenic. They've both done modeling in the past. Like, they're amazing to work with professionally, and they're great friends. But all of the, like, Mark Took That posts, all of the candid stuff that I've ever taken of Ethan, probably 80% of them he has his eyes closed. Not a clue why. He blinks a lot. It's like, and I just always catch him blinking, and I never noticed it. I never thought about it until Maddie, his partner, like, brought it up one day, and we laugh about it a lot because it's true. I mean, like, probably 80% of the photos that I've taken of him have him with his eyes closed. You know, there are other people that just are very expressive. That sometimes I get them making ridiculous faces. I like silly faces too. So, sometimes I'll really like an image and I'll really like the face that they're making. I mean, they'll just be making an amazing sort of weird face, but I'll say that person has, you know, this sort of body sensitivity issues or whatever, and I don't feel like I should share that, even though I love it and I know other people would love it. It's great. And it's very indicative of the moment that was happening. Sure. You know, I know they might not like it, so I'll skip, you know.
You did touch on the social media aspect. I mean, that's kind of like one of my curiosities is, does the momentum of that, or the sort of lack of that, does that have any sway on your motivations, or does it, like, if you see that there's like a progress, are you like more motivated, or are you going to just do this with regardless of the social media aspect?
The social media aspect of it serves a couple of purposes. And it is a lot less romantic than I wish it would be, right? You know, this is sort of opening the hood and looking under, right? My social media is very methodical and very purpose-driven. You know, it's changed over time what it means to me. So initially it was public accountability, being able to actually keep practicing and keep working. I had no intention to do it professionally when I started this.
Right.
Not at all. But I started publishing so that I would keep myself accountable to post every day and to go and take pictures every day. Because I knew if I didn't share it, number one, it wouldn't matter. That's something I learned in journalism. If you make something amazing and you don't share it, have you really made anything? It doesn't. Nobody knows. People have to know.
Yeah, because art has to be shared. It has to be validated to some point.
Yeah, at some point you have to share it with people. And so, not to say that, you know, anybody that maybe doesn't share their photography is any worse than I am. You know, no. But the big thing is, I was keeping myself accountable. And so at that point, I really didn't give a shit about view counts, about likes, about comments, about shares, any of that stuff. I started getting hired more to work, and I started getting some recognition there, and it started to matter more because I wanted more people to see it. That's the only thing that matters at this point to me. And the purpose of it changed too. So it changed from purely me keeping myself accountable to make art to, okay, not only am I keeping myself accountable to go out and practice and make art every day, but now I'm also sharing it with everybody and making sure that people see it. And then as time went by, it became more of a credible business to me. It became something that I could actually do every day as my job. And so now it matters even more because it's an advertising stream for me. And so it gained, this sort of air, this weird sort of mystique sort of started developing around it, and people started thinking about it and perceiving it a lot, maybe regardless of me, but seeing what I was doing, so like for instance, I changed when I published at that time from whenever I got home to I was publishing every day around 4 a.m. And there was a really, really important reason for that. And it was, number one, that's about when I was getting home. Or when I was, getting home and then done, ready to publish.
Sure.
But two, and I stumbled into this, because I figured out a pattern. That's when all your 2:30 a.m. bartenders get home. And so I would get an initial bump in the algorithm when I published it, like between 4 and 4:30. I'd get a bunch of people seeing stuff because it was when all these guys were getting home. Like half of them were in it,
Sure. Yeah.
And then I would get a big bump when like normal people woke up. So, 9, 10 a.m. People starting to get up. First thing they do, what do they see? They open up Instagram, look through their friends' stories, and they see, oh yeah, this person was with Mark last night or whatever, right? And so it mattered a lot to me then. And now I think that has changed again. I mean, it still is all of the things that it has been to me. But now the only thing I'm focused on is exposing it to new people and making sure that everybody that can see it does see it, and trying to dissect that algorithm in such a way that I can understand not necessarily what comment to make, or not necessarily what content to make, but how to properly share that content.
Yeah, because like it's about kind of getting it out to like you said, the art is not appreciated if it's never known. If it just goes under the radar, it's never gonna get appreciated. One other curiosity is, have you ever considered taking photos in other cities? I mean, I know how it's a friend thing. It's more of like a close attachment to the people that you're taking photos of. Have you ever considered any other cities, or have you like anything outside the country, not just America, but even outside of Kentucky? Maybe, I don't know. Have you ever considered anything like that?
Yeah. The biggest thing is, so I had a gig set up where I was supposed to go tour with a couple bands in the UK, and and so that would have happened this coming spring, and that sadly sort of fell apart. There's been issues both with like our political climate right now that has prevented that, and with the guy that initially got me that gig. He's had a little bit of drama around him, and so that I don't think is going to work out anymore. I think lineup's kind of changed, and it looks like I'm probably not going to do that anymore. But yeah, as I continue, a lot of it is economic issues, is sort of lack of subject matter for me outside of Lexington. So keeping it with people that I sort of know and surround myself with. As I go anytime I go on trips, I'm still making content, and I'm still posting, and I'm still sharing, and I'm still making art. But yeah, my current trajectory is taking me outside of Lexington a little more. And so you will see more of me outside of Lexington very soon.
I guess, the main takeaway is like that. It sounds like to me there isn't too much of a distinction in your art form versus like other art forms or music. Like I find that it is fundamentally the people that are inspiring the work, It's like I keep coming back to that, and just knowing that it's consistent across different, fields is like kind of interesting, like just to know that. But exactly. And I want to have one more question before we kind of wrap up. And I do, again, like I appreciate you coming out here, Mark. It does mean a lot. Our conversation meant a lot because, again, I wanted to get a fresher take outside the musicians. Not that I won't keep interviewing musicians, but I mean, I just want to get more people from different facets, And so it meant a lot, and especially in the startup of this. So, but like, I always ask everybody this, and I didn't tell you this question, but this is, how do you define, if you had to define creativity to yourself or in your own terms, how would you describe that?
Yeah. So creativity is that sort of thinking on your feet sort of idea. It is being able to see something or to perceive something and having your own take on it, and being able to translate that into something else. For a musician, I think that creativity, manifests itself in songwriting. Obviously, it's whether you are writing an instrumental track or words, writing. It doesn't matter. You're still translating a feeling into song. And it's the same exact thing for me. I go out there and I see something. It makes me feel a way, and then I capture it in a way that also conveys that meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think creativity is just you really have to grab onto an idea or something and transform it. I think that's sort of it. It's a tough one to grab onto. It's a big concept.
It is, but I love that everybody has their own distinct sort of. There's similarities, but they're still distinct. Everybody's definition. And where can people find your content? You want to plug any sort of things on that?
Yeah. So I think the easiest way to see me is going to be through social media on pretty much all platforms. I am Mark Took That. You can see me on my website as well, which is marktookthat.com. And then, yeah, right now I have a couple of pieces permanently at Blue Stallion Brewing Company here in town, as well as for pretty much all of the month of November and the rest of October, I am at the Loudon House as part of the Prohibition Gallery. So I have 3 pieces in there. Yeah, and then I have a couple just sort of smattered around the rest of the town. One in the Green Lantern and a couple other places. So yeah.
I appreciate you again, Mark, for just sharing all the the thoughts about your photography, and I was very intrigued, and I learned a lot. I'm going to be definitely looking into Dorothy Lang. That was an intrigue of mine after this conversation, and yeah, man, I want to kind of wrap it up on that,
Yeah.
but keep rocking, man. All right.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. That was episode 5 of Creatively Speaking with Lawrence Mayfield and our guest, Mark Walsh. Next month, we're going to be back again with a guest format. Another local musician, but also he's got different backgrounds, so I'm going to be quizzing him on the different things that he's endeavored in the past, and that is on the horizon here. So do stay tuned, and thank you for listening.